Welcome, welcome, welcome. Finally, everyone's here getting settled in. Welcome to the How to Package and Sell an Unscripted Project panel. I am your moderator, Carlton Jordan, and very excited to have you here. Make sure you get a pen and a paper because I believe information is key into navigating this industry, and we're going to give you lots of information today. So thank you for holding on and waiting and getting in here. And now we're going to have an amazing panel tonight with some amazing panelists that work in the spectrum of unscripted and have really set the stage for what we're viewing in reality TV today, unscripted. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelist, David Hillman. He is the head of unscripted and alternative at Sugar 23. He currently oversees 60 plus projects in active development, ranging from limited series, feature docs, competition series, shiny floor shows, and more. During his tenure at A&E Networks and Lifetime, this 8-time Emmy-nominated producer executive produced more than 35 series and countless specials for the network, including the network's #1 unscripted show, which we all know and love, Project Runway, and its spinoffs, Project Runway All-Stars, Project Runway Junior. Additionally, Hillman executive produced the competition series Glam Masters, hosted by Emmy nominee Laverne Cox, and the revolutionary transformative series This Time Next Year with Emmy-nominated host Kat Deely. Other credits include Fashionably Late with Rachel Zoe, My Partner Knows Best with Jason Biggs and Jenny Mullen, Child Genius, How to Look Good Naked, need to watch that, and the Billboard Women's in Music Special, and all of the Cat Network's Beyond the Headlines documentaries. David started his career as a trainee in the William Morris mailroom. What a journey. Thank you, David, for being with us. We also have Ashley Harrison, is an alternative television business affairs executive and agent at leading entertainment and sports agency CAA. Yes. Harrison is based in LA office and works on behalf of many of the world's leading production companies, producers, and talent, including Beyonce's Parkwood Entertainment, Carlos King's Kingdom Reign Entertainment, Holly Carter's Releve Entertainment, Dwayne Wade, Ludacris, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Roy Troy, Dream Hampton, and full disclosure, she's also my agent. Harrison graduated from the University of Houston with a degree in economics, Rice University's Jones School of Business with an MBA, and Southern Methodist University's Dedman School of Law with a Juris Doctor. Harrison is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and Black Women Lawyers. She resides in West Hollywood with her husband and 2 dogs. That's so sweet. Thank you, Ashley, for being with us.
Happy to be here.
Love having you. Jeff Jenkins, my former boss, friend, is president of Jeff Jenkins Productions, a full-service content company and joint venture launched in 2018 by Jenkins and 3Ball Entertainment. Focusing on docuseries and unscripted formats, including celebrity IP, Jeff's robust production and development slate includes high-profile talent from music and sports, as well as previously unknown faces and families. Current projects include Unfiltered Paris Jackson and Gabrielle Glenn, which airs on Facebook Watch, and new upcoming docuseries for Netflix, and numerous other shows and specials in production and development across networks and streamers. Jenkins is a 20-year industry vet. He previously served as co-president of Buna Murray, overseeing development, sell, and executive production of an array of unscripted hits, including Is Kardashian franchise, encompassing flagship series Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and all of its spinoffs, including the award-winning I Am Kate, Total Divas, Total Bellas, Mariah's World, oh my God, I love that one, Stewart's and Hamilton's, and Mrs. Eastwood and Company. He also served as executive producer on all 5 seasons on The Simple Life for Fox and E, as well as Living Lohan and Dr. Steve-O, among others. Thank you, Jeff. We're very happy to have you here.
My pleasure, Carlton. Happy to be here.
And we have Angela Dugan, who is the Vice President of Development and Unscripted Programming at Kingdom Reign Entertainment. Dugan joined the company in 2014 and rose through the ranks as producer of Kingdom Reign shows like Hollywood Divas, The Next 15, and Selling It in the ATL series. Now in her role as VP, Dugan is charged with identifying stellar talent and developing unscripted series using her impeccable creative and storytelling abilities. Since 2016, she has developed several series from Kingdom Reign Entertainment, including one of my favorites, Styling Hollywood on Netflix, Gucci Mane and Keyshia's The Main Event, which was on BET, and that was considered the #1 cable series premiere of 2017-18 season. And the hit reality series Love and Marriage Huntsville, which is in 2019 became OWN's highest rated freshman unscripted series in 4 years in the network's key demo of women ages 25 to 54. Thank you, Angela, for being with us.
Thank you, Carlton.
And last but definitely not least, Brittany Royes. Brittany is a writer, producer, and network executive. As a production and development executive for E! and Oxygen, Brittany has produced and oversees some of NBC Universal's successful series, including Keeping Up with the Kardashians franchise, Celebrity Game Face, hosted by Kevin Hart, The Justice Project, Kim Kardashian West, A Wedding and a Murder and Killers with Piers Morgan, among other hit series and specials. Prior to joining NBCU, Brittany worked in the field as a story producer. Yes, story producer, that's where I started, on MTV series True Life and an A&E active investigation titled Spies Next Door. She has also created a footprint in the live production space, which is a very hard space to be in, and has worked on various award shows. Brittany has a strong passion for developing innovative formats and telling unique stories through various genres of programming. What an amazing panel. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today.
Thank you. Excited.
And I just want to establish like the style of this panel. This is not your typical panel. We are really doing a masterclass on the nuts and bolts of getting your project together and off the ground, starting with the basics. So if you have questions, be sure to drop them in our comment section. So get your pens and paper out, take notes. And I believe information is currency in Hollywood. The more information you have, the less mistakes you make, the farther you can go in your career. And we all want you to succeed. So team, what is unscripted? What does that mean? Because I feel like the definition in the beginning of unscripted has changed to what it means now. So Angela, can you start that off for us?
Yeah, unscripted is pretty much the opposite of scripted, which is, you know, your sitcoms, your dramas, things like that. So you have reality shows, you have shiny floor game shows, competition shows, soaps, you know, if you're in a workplace and you have a drama series going on there. So it's anything that technically, you know, you're not scripting out. You're just following the reality.
Okay. Are there any other like genres in the unscripted space?
I would say crime. I think we often forget about crime, but active investigations, our adjudicated shows, which are your favorite past tense crime shows like Snapped, and other shows on ID. But crime shows are also, I think people sometimes think they're scripted, but definitely unscripted. It's all true stories. They're all real cases that are told from public record, basically. And unique access.
Well, is news considered unscripted?
Yes.
News, game show, news, game shows,
documentaries,
reality, which is like occupation-based reality programming, docu-soaps,
house shows, which are like
renovation home shows.
Lifestyle shows. Or, lifestyle, like a Real World, right? Or Bad Girls Club. Like that's technically like a house show format.
Oh, okay, house show, okay.
You can also call formats. I would say a subgenre of unscripted is formats. So like
Okay.
series formats, yeah.
And I'd also put talk shows in that as well.
Talk shows.
Talk shows.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, people always ask me like, what does unscripted mean? I'm like, there's such a big world that you can enter unscripted in. It doesn't have to be, you know, the Kardashians or the Real World or a docu. So it can be a lot of different things. So
I always tell
So it's
people
kind
you
of
need
a-
to have a script.
Yeah. Kind of a buzzword now because like reality show has been so like tainted as a term. So
Yeah.
it's so unscripted, you know.
Alternative.
Yeah.
Alternative. That's the spicy word. That's the word where you're like, you're educated. It's
Yeah.
alternative. Yeah.
yeah, because reality got a stigma to it for a while. And so now people do use unscripted and alternative. David, you're the head of unscripted and alternative programming at Sugar 23. Why is it important for companies to focus on both genres of television?
Well, I think there's so many ways to sort of create content. And, you know, at Sugar 23, we have a very robust feature division, a very robust scripted division. And the unscripted division is really relatively new. So I've came in, it didn't exist before I arrived. And we have really just hustled to sort of partner up with different places and people. But I think they're really important. They can inform. You look at the success of Tiger King, that is an unscripted show that did very well at Netflix, and now there are 2 scripted versions of that are in development. So I think there's lots of opportunity and synergy with great original IP in the unscripted space that really can support scripted and features.
Is that something that is happening a lot now, where unscripted projects are also being turned into scripted projects, whether it's film, TV? Is that a new trend, or is that something?
I mean, I think you see it more and more. I think you see these limited docs that really are so captivating. They are, you know, you could say they're one long documentary cut into like six hours. But yeah, I think they really sort of inform a scripted opportunity that didn't exist before.
Yeah, and on the flip side, we Oxygen on the crime side. We have flipped it, and we've done a documentary the true story of Dannemora, which was a Showtime hit series. We did a 2-hour special on the true story and got access to you know, the inmates and their families. So it's sort of intertwined. It's actually interesting how in some, you know, worlds the unscripted shows are turned into scripted, and then scripted they're turned into unscripted.
Yeah.
Sort of.
JJP has a series that we sold to a major streamer that's shooting in New York right now. And the streamer is also developing the scripted version of the same, I'll say cast members, but the scripted project takes you from a certain time up to the present. And then the unscripted show, the JJP project, takes you from the present and forward in kind of contemporary time. It's pretty remarkable. It's the same story, but the first half of it is scripted, and the second half of it and ongoing is unscripted.
And in some spaces now, it's even after that is the podcast, right? So there's a next step where the conversation, it's really just keeping the conversation going. And that really shows you how layered or how great an idea is. You can really see various iterations of it, you know, when the pitch comes in, when the ideas come in.
Yeah. Could that be something creators should be concerned about when they're putting their projects together, like making sure they think about the spectrum of content that one idea could be?
I wouldn't say concerned. If anything, I would just say, think about the options. Think about, there's so many more platforms now, right? So like if you're pitching or if you're presenting something to someone at a specific place, now, it can go linear, it can go digital. Like I would just be more aware of the options, because what you don't want is to go into an opportunity or go into, you know, a meeting and you just are unaware, and I'm telling you like, oh yeah, this could live on Peacock, and you're like, what's Peacock? Like, you know, sort of just need to know what's out there, right?
I think another important element is just that you protect your idea. There are like the way that you structure your business when you're structuring a deal. you want to make sure you lock yourself to your ideas, just so that if it does become a scripted project, that you're also compensated properly for your idea becoming a scripted project.
As a new creator, how ideal is that?
It's very ideal if it's an original idea.
Okay.
So I think that, like, if you're telling a story about someone's life, it's really hard to get a lock on what that turns out to, because that person still has life rights to their rights, right? So they're fully in charge of the rights to their life. But if you decide, oh, I want to make a show about, or like present a format about basketball, right? And it's on this particular thing about basketball of like, where was the dribble? Like, where was that invented, right? If that then becomes a scripted project, when you structure your unscripted deal, you want to make sure you ask for a lock. And when you ask for that lock, you're asking for a life lock, which then locks you to the project for any derivatives or spinoffs or remakes of this idea.
And Ashley, and that's even if you are not producing it, even if you're not involved in it, let's say it goes to a third party production company, you still get a percentage of, right, of
Correct.
that. Yeah, of that deal.
You're always locked to the project. So every time it's like, I always think about it as like Full House, right? Fuller House, whoever produced that show, they had a lock on that show so that when it was remade, it was the first executive producer presented because it was his original idea. So even though it wasn't in its original form, it was sold to Netflix for the second time through Warner, they still got paid for it.
And I've been to his house, and it's a nice house. And I'm not kidding.
Okay, he's
kidding.
check.
Not kidding. It's not a small house.
It's
Okay.
not. I've been there too. It's nice.
How, I'm just actually asking a question, Ashley, as far as like the packages. I know, like, you know, if we talked 10 years ago, right, with packaging, I would say obviously it was different and people were being locked or had the ability to be locked to projects. But now, is there a difference given there's so many other platforms, or being locked, it's like companies or networks just don't want to necessarily make that commitment?
It is definitely a fight to get that commitment made. But it also, I think that a large part of that has to do with superiority of like who's been in the business and who knows how to actually structure these deals. Because sometimes you can even get the lock and it might not kick in within the first 7 years of your project, right? And so they might offer to you on the back end, which sucks in a way because it's your idea and you want to make sure you're locked to that project as soon as it kicks off. So I think that in the current state of affairs that we're in, it's possible, but it definitely is a tooth and nail getting there.
Right. I guess the thing is just ask. You won't know until you ask.
Yeah, you definitely always need to ask. That is every time I mark up an agreement of like a creative idea, I always ask for a lock. And when they send it back, I ask for it again. If they don't give it to me the first time, I ask for it again. And then they send it back and I ask for it again. Like I fight tooth and nail for that just because you as the creator need to be able to protect your ideas from future gains off of something that you created.
And David, I hear you. Go ahead.
Like you want to make your content. So at the end of the day, you want to get out there and actually start making content. And then that content hopefully leads to new content and different opportunities. And then you're going to have a little bit more control in getting that lock when you have momentum in your career. It is very hard. It's a rock, chicken or the egg, rock and a hard place. It really is hard to get it. And I appreciate that you are, Ashley, that your fight for your clients. That's amazing. It's just really difficult to get. But you really want to let that be your calling card. And I always say, like, let's make it and not get lost in the deal points. Like, let the show then sort of be the calling card for the next thing. But you have to make a personal choice in what that line is for you and what you're comfortable sort of be. You don't want to feel bad going to work every day.
Yeah.
I even talk to Carlton like this a lot. We talk about this. I'm always about strategy, right? So if you get a show on and it does really well, like you sell this format and it does really well, then the next time this might be something that we ask for in the next round of comments for the next show that we possibly didn't get this show. And that's okay because it's your first time. And so it's like, I always use this analogy. It's probably a bad one, but I'm like, it's the Chris Brown thing. How are you going to hate from outside the club? You can't even get in. So first you need to get in. And like, once you get in, then you make your demands because now you're growing in the sector.
Yeah. And I think that's the scary part for a lot of new creators is they feel they could feel like, oh, I'm being taken advantage of, but some L's you have to take as you build your career, especially if you're dealing like with trying to sell your project.
Yeah.
Well, Angela, I would love to know what is the day-to-day role of someone that's a VP of development and unscripted programming?
I'd say the biggest part of my job is meeting new people. We're in Unscripted, we're looking for new real life stories every day, looking for larger than life talent, and everybody thinks they're all of those things, right? So, I'm constantly Skyping with people, hearing new ideas, and, if we decide to work with these people or partner or pitch a project, I'm trying to formalize what will make this show sellable to the marketplace. What's relevant right now, what conversations are being had in pop culture? Does, this show concept fit into any of that? Because we have sold shows that, or usually the shows we sell are relevant, whether the talent is hot right now, or like i.e. Gucci and Keyshia, we knew that they had a wedding on the horizon, so how can we get on top of that? And obviously the political climate has been in part of pop culture conversation, so really like seeing what stories are out there that can just kind of push culture forward for us at Kingdom Reign personally.
Okay. And I feel like, Jeff, because you're a production company, is that the same process of your daily like activities?
As far as development of new projects, I'm very lucky because I have been around for a long time. So most of the time when a celebrity wants to do, or they think they want to do, a reality docu-series, very often they end up working their way to me through word of mouth. And I'll meet with anybody, A player, B, C, D, E. I'm always curious to meet new talent that I haven't met before. And I have a pretty, as I'm sure David does and everybody else here does who's looking for new projects, I have a very stringent vetting process, because when it comes to talent who are already famous for some reason and they think they want to get into unscripted, a lot of times I find after asking half a dozen questions, they really don't want to get into scripted because they don't want you shooting in their house, and they don't want to tell you about their impending divorce, and they don't want to tell you about the abortion that they had yesterday, and they don't want to tell you that they use auto tunes when they're recording music, and on and on and on. It's a rare get to find someone who is willing to share their life, but really share it and not curate it. I'm not interested in your curated story. You have to just trust and partner with me and share, or it's not going to work. So a lot of my time is meeting people, as Angela mentioned, and kind of vetting. We also do a lot of internal development, more so for formats and social experiments. And we do take pitches from outside. I'm not a huge fan of partnering because it complicates things. But if the talent or the format is amazing, I will do so. So meeting with people, developing internally. My agents, I think I have the best team at ICM with Michael Kagan. They also bring me opportunities, usually talent-based. That goes through the same vetting process. And also sometimes I'll get a piece of talent and I'm like, they're really good, but it's not enough. And I kind of keep a mental list of all the amazing different types of people I met. Maybe that person needs to be paired with someone else. Like, for instance, I had two very globally famous ladies come in and I'm like, oh, they're great, but it's like a 70. I need 100 to go out. I'm not going to go to David Hillman at Lifetime or anybody else back in the day unless I got it all. And so I asked if I could add a third, and everybody agreed. And now I'm like, that's just an example of like, I think that project will have a bidding war, because now we've got, it's like when you take Brad and Angelina and you have them both, that's much better than just Angelina, right? So yeah, that's how I spend a lot of my time.
Thank you for that answer. And we're gonna really dive into what makes talent attractive, like later down. So I'm definitely want to bring all those points back up. So Brittany, how does your role different at a network than a production company?
I would say so on the network side, we take pitches from production companies like Angela, like Jeff, like David. But we also meet with talent. We we do a lot of zhuzhing. We are meeting with the agents. We're meeting, with having lunch. We're having dinners. We're at Real Screen. We're at all the different sort of conferences. Just sort of wanting to know what's out there. I think what I would say is different for us is that we are eager to keep these relationships with you geniuses, so that way you come to us first, right? So I want your idea before you want to go to Netflix. I will buy you a nice dinner, but I want you to come to me before you go to Netflix, because we want to be sort of ahead of the curve. And I think that as on the network side, that's the priority. So whatever that looks like, it's in your pitches, it's in your sort of socializing. And then also on the corporate side, lots of internal meetings. I have the pleasure of working on development and current. So I'm able to take pitches, but then we also have our weekly calls with our production companies, our Buter Murrays, talking about cards. We're figuring out week to week what's happening. Lots of internal conversations about, just different processes. You'd be so surprised how one thing, the Kardashian promo that launched yesterday, which I hope you guys saw it, but that's a whole thing. That's like 5 meetings. That takes 2 months of conversations. So lots of corporate sort of just talks about synergy and flowing. But for the most part, our meetings and our conversations with the production companies really just manifesting and having our producers trust us and want to come and pitch us the idea first.
Okay.
That's really important. Like, you need a Brit on your team. You need her as your advocate, because your job is to sort of get her excited. Then she's got to go to the next meeting and get them excited. And that's all you have. You just have that relationship with your executive, and you need someone enthusiastic who sees it, pokes the holes in that room, figures out the answers. And when she walks into the next room, they're going to be poking the same holes, and she's got the answer. So she really is your touch point. And those relationships matter throughout, you're going to go back to her because it was a great experience. You're going to keep bringing her content. She was your champion, whether it moves forward or not. It's that.
Right. I always say, like, especially, and I keep referring to the crime space just because crime is so different. Like I have the E side, so I do pop culture, but on the crime side, like, there are so many ideas. Literally, if you see an article tomorrow on a mass shooting and you're like, oh, I want to do a show on this. It's like, if I have never met you before, if I don't know if you can actually produce an active investigation, like, then that's a challenging sort of conversation. But the more we talk and the more I know you and the more you know me, and if you pitch me 100 ideas, like, it's just the day-to-day conversations, to David's point. So that way, when you come to me and I go to the next meeting, I have confidence and I can know that this production company can execute. So it's just like a constant conversation, and it's like shooting log lines. You don't have to come in and formally pitch. I mean, we're past those days now. Everything is on Zoom. Before, I'd be like, don't come in. Like, that's cute, that's fun, but like, just tell me the log line. Let me just see it. Let's just, So yeah.
That's a great segue, because think of me, Carlton Jordan, an independent producer that has an idea. I don't know what to do past that point. What would you say makes an attractive package before people get to Jeff or Brittany or Angela, David? What should they put together before they meet with you? And I know, Brittany, you're like, oh, send me a log line, but that sounds like with people that you're already in conversation with, right? What if it's a nobody producer that just has a great concept? At what point should they come to any person like that's at your level?
Well, I can tell you for the network side, I'm gonna say, don't call me, because I don't take any unsolicited pitches. You will not have me in litigation Nothing. I cannot talk to you. I don't know you. Go to whoever you need to go first. So go there first.
Say Carlton, as your agent, you come to me.
I'm gonna be like, I never got this email. Report IT. No, yeah.
I mean, and if you didn't have an agent, like if you were just on your own, I feel like, if you put together some type of presentation, like if I mean, I've had some people send me Instagram links, but like I know them and I have a rapport with them, but it starts with talent. Like even if you don't have the best concept or you haven't really thought out like what the hook of your show is, if you have some really amazing people that are just like out of this world or unique somehow, then you could approach a production company, and like, hey, I have this here, like, can we talk? And that's the conversation you would have with someone like myself.
Yeah. All of our jobs are to find, that white space that doesn't exist. I mean, Angela's looking, I'm looking, Jeff's looking, we're all looking for what isn't on the air already. So if you have access to a world or somebody, we want to hear about it. And to your point, it's about when do you hear it? You want to come in somewhat fully formed with some sense of the idea, with some relationship with that person. There's nothing worse than coming in with somebody that you don't really represent. You can't really say that you represent.
You don't have access to, yeah.
I said, oh, it's great. No, that I saw that on People Magazine as well. But if you don't know them and can't deliver them, that's not going to help us move this forward. So sometimes
that's key. Access, actually having access to the people.
And having the paperwork. Because to David's point, it could be a friend. I can be best friends with Serena Williams. Like, but that doesn't mean that I have her locked up. I have access to her, I have exclusive access to her because on whatever that format is, right? So it's also having your paperwork in line. But I would say for me, just aside from having everything buttoned up, I think awareness. Like there's so much content out there and you sort of need to know what's on. You need to know what's been on, what hasn't worked, what does work. Because it's sort of like, that's where a lot of sometimes, especially smaller producers, you only get one shot. I mean, maybe, there could be some different scenarios where you're able to get in the room again with a Jeff, with a David, with whoever, but if you don't know that like, oh, Project Run, like that's a show already, or like, like that already existed, then it's like you sort of have tainted that relationship. So I would say like, no, do your work, learn, do the research. There's so much out there, unfortunately, but then fortunately, there's so much out there that like the research is there. So you sort of have to know the market.
Yeah, I
so
remember.
It sounds like, go ahead, David.
I remember being surprised when people would walk in when I was a buyer and not know what was on our air. Like it's like legitimately, you could look in the lobby waiting to come in and see what's on there, or look around you to see what's on the air. There's posters everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So
Background.
know where you are. And I understand, like when you're out doing the, you're pitching this to 6 different outlets. I get it. It can be sort of, daunting and exhausting, but like you need to know what's airing and successful at Oxygen and E. You need to walk in and be impressive that you've done your homework. Right. And that information is everywhere. Like you can figure it out in the elevator on the way to the meeting, worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, is knowing like the landscape of what is already out there, or if it's already a project that's in development
development's harder. Development's harder, right? Because you don't know really what's in development, like unless it's released, unless you read I hope you read the trades, but definitely you should know what's on the air and what has been on. Because that's one opportunity that may not ever happen again, just because you didn't know that Courtney and Chloe took Miami.
Yes, they did.
Hello.
What the networks have previously been successful at too is because that determines if it's a good fit for you to work with the network.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think with the buyers, and I think that's really important for people to sit and realize, like, ESPN is not buying a fashion show because that's not what ESPN does.
Yeah.
So that's something that you need to keep in mind too, of like in context, what are the buyers looking for? What works for their programming?
So it sounds like for a budding young creator, the production company is the first step before finding a good production company that you can sort of attach yourself to.
I think it depends, honestly, if your project is, talent-based, like a docu-series, like our project with Paris Jackson, that cannot live or die. It only lives if we have her.
Yeah.
Like pitch it without her. So if, your best friend is Serena Williams and you think Serena has mentioned, oh, I want to do a docu-series, I'm ready. Then you, even if you've never produced anything, you do the paperwork, figure it out, and attach Serena to you. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months if she's really not paying attention, and you get her attached. Now you call me, and if you tell me, hey, I'm Joe Blow, and I happen to have Serena Williams attached to me for 6 months, yes, I want to meet you. If you come in and tell me, oh, actually, I don't have her attached, and we haven't talked about it, but she's a friend of mine, I am going to push the ejector button. And to Britt's point, I will not take another meeting with you because you just wasted an hour of my day.
Yeah.
So I agree with Brittany and Ashley, you've got to be buttoned up. If you have a format, I think that's totally different. And David, and I'm sure everybody has an opinion on this, but if you have what you think is the next American Idol or the next Survivor, my suggestion is by hook or by crook, through your network of friends, family, get to an agent, a junior agent, an agent's assistant, and try to get someone to represent you and get them on page with you that, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. Now, if you've got any kind of agent, even if they're hip pocketing you, which means the official paperwork hasn't been done, now they can get you, hopefully, a meeting or two and protect you and your idea, still not impervious to theft, but at least you can get the meeting and maybe get a pitch going. And then, like if you're going in to see a David Hillman or an Angela Dugan, yeah, you better be buttoned up. And what I mean by that is practice. Practice, don't wing it. Sit in your bedroom with your idea and practice in a mirror. Practice your whole thing. Create a list of questions, because this is the buyer's job, right? The buyer's job, David may disagree, my perception is they're looking for any way to say no. They're looking to say no. So write up a list of 10, 20 questions that are picking your project apart. Well, Serena Williams, she's not that verbal. Isn't she kind of an introvert? I mean, we know she's a superstar, but she, blah, blah. Write up that list of questions trying to tear you apart, tear your project apart. Have your friends sit in your room while you're practicing and ask you those questions and figure out how you're going to answer them. Practice. Be prepared. So that's my humble advice, whether it's talent or format. Attach the talent, get someone to represent you with the format, because it's much easier to steal, nobody steals, to borrow elements of your format if you're not protected. And it does happen. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to everybody on camera here. It happens.
There's nothing more soul sucking than when your idea that you're so excited about, it just got announced, that day somewhere else. Like and it happens, but it also means you're kind of on the right path. Like you had an idea, there was momentum behind it. Somebody just beat you. I mean, life is timing. But just to add to what Jeff was saying, I also think that, go to a company that has a good reputation. Go to a company, look, you have friends all over the place. Ask them, what do you think of this company? What has their experience been working with this company?
Yes.
There's a great reputation, because that will inform the way the business works at that company. You come to my company, we have a very be fair transparency policy. Like, it's sort of nice to not have to remember what you did. You just have to remember what was fair. And I think that really helps keep the noise out, and you can focus on the content, and you can focus on not a good idea, a great idea. What can you add to that idea? But I never forget who brought the idea, who brought the idea in, and we may have to add to that equation. and I will bring that person through the process, so they will learn through this iteration, so the next one will be so much more easy for them. But I do think it's like, go someplace where you feel there's great momentum and a great reputation.
So true.
Another important thing to remember is I run into a lot of people who are always like, I'm looking for an agent. And I'm like, yeah, but what do you have? Like, what can you give me that I can go out and sell? Like that.
Absolutely.
That's something that I always think about. And even myself, I take on, I'm a junior agent, of course, but I take on hip pocket clients. I represent a lot of big people, but it's timely too, right? Because literally I'm the only Black person in Unscripted right now at CAA. So I have a perception and the way that I think about things that other people don't think of it that way. That's why I can connect with Beyonce and Chris Paul and Carlton, because I can see things through lens that they like, just the diverse lens that they have. And I know what they're trying to authentically get on the screen, which is important to me as it is important to them. But when I take on hip pocket clients and I'm presenting things to them, I took a meeting with the hip pocket clients today with Angela, with Carlos King. I'm thinking about something that's authentic to that person. Like, what do you have and why are you trying to sell this? Because those are two questions I get going into rooms, is like, why now?
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Why now is the number one question, right?
Why now? What's happening? Yeah.
So you have to like think about things in context of where they're falling in the timing and what importance is this project to you? Like I get a lot of, even now, I get a lot of white producers telling Black stories. And it's like, I know these stories need to be told, but why by you? So it's trying to like button those things up too, to just figure out what stories need to be told. Why am I the correct person to tell this story?
Yeah.
That's why I hired Carlton. I'm like, I'm a gay white man working with Paris Jackson. Come help me.
On the network side, I insert myself. I was like, you don't have to ask. No worries. I'm coming in. So this show is about what? What are we doing? Black Lives Matter. Okay, let's talk, yeah.
Yeah. And so and then the white space of like, what makes this show so special that this is something I feel like I have time, because that's another thing in my day is like, what do I actually have time to take on? How do I think that I can get this into the market, and whose hands can I get it to in order to assist me getting it into the market?
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I think that leads me to a really good question. Like, what is the state of unscripted in the world that we're living in now that's different than, say, the early 2000s, where, what was considered attractive and for buyers might not be what is happening now? Like, what is happening now in unscripted that is exciting and new?
I think it's really exciting. Obviously, I don't have to point out to anyone, we are in the midst of extreme political change for women and all people of color and people of minority sexual orientation. And I think if you are pitching a project or buying a project, you cannot pitch or buy an all-white cast. Forget about it. That's what was happening in the early 2000s, and that's what's not happening now.
Yeah.
It's exciting time. And change is painful for a lot of people, but it's exciting, and I'm glad we're changing. I think it's a great time to be in unscripted. It's super exciting.
And to work, for a Black-owned production company, it's especially been great because, we're getting even more projects brought to us from networks because they want a Black viewpoint attached. And, we've always, at Kingdom Reign, we've always been doing what we've been doing, telling Black stories. So we even have a larger lens on that now due to the conversation happening.
Yeah, I mean, to answer like your question, it's unscripted it's a great time for unscripted. It's a very saturated time. It's a saturated time for programming all over, right? On unscripted, on the scripted side and unscripted. So I would say it's even more exciting and more challenging to find out and identify what makes your project different. Like, why would this stand out? Why does this excite me? How Why is this different from the next show that was on last season? And even given sort of the social environment of where we are and with, you know, all of the changes. And to your point, Jeff, on the corporation side, on the network side, like that, it is so important now. You better not pitch me an anything cast, even all black, like, because it's like that's not the world we live in. So it's having that awareness, but also to Ashley's point, like, why now? What's so important about this? Why? Just because, you know, unfortunately, Black people been getting killed. That's nothing new, right? And I'm the first person on that when all this started happening. I was like, yeah, this has been happening, but like, how are we going to tell the story differently, or how are we going to change the way that these stories are told moving forward, right? So I think it's just also being proactive in the narrative, in the conversation, as exciting as the times are and unscripted. And it's also, there are eyes on us. I think people are watching. Everybody's watching. The world is watching.
There's a responsibility, I think,
yeah.
There's a great responsibility and there's great opportunity, and great stories are great stories, but I think there's an awareness and you do need to be conscientious. You do need to sort of think differently and sort of put a different filter on sort of what's special about this project. And I think that what everyone's saying, I think there's just great opportunity right now. And I think that there's always been, but I think even more so now we're looking at each other, we're looking at storytellers, and they deserve these platforms and they deserve these opportunities. These stories need to get out there, and all different kinds of stories need to get out there. You just need to see representation. You just need to, people need to see them.
Yeah, of the world that we live in, right?
I think, Britt, to your point about saturation, that's really true. And when I'm developing or considering to partner on a new project or to attach a piece of talent, you know, one of my vetting tools is I envision the viewer cruising through all those channels, and I envision that the project that I bring to you as a buyer, that project has got to stop that remote from clicking. What is this? What is this?
Who died?
What is this? Whether it's that is literally my filter. I need to stop the viewer to at least check it out. And that's my filter, whether it's a piece of content, whether it's a concept that's a light format or social experiment, whether it's a whole fleshed out format. What's the headline of that format? You know, that's gonna, you know, what's the one sentence, you know, when I email you the log line, what's the one sentence that's gonna be like, okay, I have to hear this pitch.
Jeff, what's the title? We have bought titles. We have literally bought shows off of the title because I know exactly how that show works. I know as a viewer how I'm watching it. I know as a programmer how I'm programming it. And as a producer, I know how I'm going to make it. Buried Backyard, I know exactly what that show is. That show starts off with a body buried, somebody finds it, you have to go on the journey of figuring out who this person is, and then you need to figure out who killed them. Bam, that's the show. Got it.
Nice and clear.
No untitled projects. Don't have your title.
Oh, no. I mean, unless it's talent. No, an untitled project, that's just lazy. That's just.
So we have a question from our audience. We have Ashton Pemberton. Sounds very British. All right. It's about agents. So he says, how do you secure an agent if you are a newcomer? And also, would you suggest an entertainment lawyer as someone that could replace an agent? And for Ashley.
So agents and lawyers are not interchangeable. You need both. As I represent Carlton, but I am not his lawyer. And I remind him of that all the time. When I'm looking at paperwork, I'm always like, your lawyer needs to look at this. Like, it's certain things that I can flag for you because I just know this because of legalese, and I know the deal. So I know what the business structure is supposed to look like. But as far as your legal well-being is concerned, you need a lawyer. Okay. And so I think that the agent lawyer is a very dangerous combination because you're profiting in two different ways that don't necessarily benefit each other. One, you're trying to get something out there to sell, but two, is it really in the best interest of your client? And so I think that as an agent lawyer, you can lose that in the mix somewhere. So you definitely need both, which sucks because now you have to pay two people, but it is what it is. And securing an agent, if you're a newcomer, I always say that people grow up in the business with you. So if you know assistants that are at talent firms or like talent corporations where they represent talent, Those are the people you need to eye. You do not need to go look for my boss, Alan Braun. He is not going to look down for a newcomer to come.
Not calling you back. He's not calling you back.
He's not calling you back. But if you can get his assistant, who also is trying to learn how to become an agent and is looking for that thing to actually make them an agent, and so our assistants are different than most assistants. I always tell people this story. When you come up in the assistant world on the agent desk, you listen to all the phone calls. You know how the pitches work. You're setting calendars. You know who to talk to. You know who's interested in what. Like, you are the intel for the agent, because you have to know all this in order to communicate with your boss of the things that are going on in the world. So catching an assistant is like gold, because they have developed the relationships with the assistants. Like, they know Brittany's assistant, like Britt's assistant. They know that.
Yeah.
So if you have an idea, they know how to package it and get it over to the people that you need to get it to.
And here's one.
Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick to your point, actually, and one thing about agent assistants, they have worked so hard to get there. They're not leaving. So you don't have to worry about this person is going to hop and go from, agent to no, that person is there with the plan and hope of becoming an agent. So it's not as interchangeable as production company, assistants. No, assistants at the agencies, they're going to be running the team one day. So
yeah, and I'll just give two personal instances of that. When I was an assistant at a network, I had a friend who was putting a show together, and she was an independent producer, but her project was really well done, and I really did think it had a chance. Not at the network I was at, though. So what I did was I sent her project to an agent assistant, because when you're a network assistant, you have a rapport with agency assistants. And that agent assistant liked it too, showed it to her boss, and my friend ended up getting partnered with a production company and taking her show out for a pilot. And then in my instance, before I became a producer, I was always developing shows just based on the people around me, because clearly I know a lot of crazy people. And so from that, I had a friend who was repped at WME just as talent. And she saw my project and she liked it and showed it to her agent, who sent it to the Unscripted agent. And I was able to pitch that project around off that. So to Ashley's point, the assistants, just relationships. You have friends who are repped, just try to get it out to as many people as you can.
Okay. We're going to take a break at 7:15. So we have about 1 minute, and you might want to add to that. I think, David, you were about to say something.
No, I just think you got to be tenacious. You can't take no. If someone doesn't email you back, it doesn't mean they're not interested. It means it just got buried. Bump it to the top of the email. Don't be obnoxious. Be kind of funny about it. A sense of humor is going to get a reaction every time. If you're and if it doesn't, then move on. Like, it's just sort of, it's like online dating. You cannot personalize it. You got to just keep moving.
All right. Awesome. Well, we're going to break. So it'll be like a 2-minute break. Little commercial about the Oscar Micheaux Festival, and then we'll be back for the last half. Great information. I got all these questions in my chat now.
I'm learning so much.
Me too.
I am too.
I'm taking notes.
My wife is really dark.
I know. Sorry, I'm losing my light. My friend was supposed to bring me a ring light, and they.
I know. I'm like, Carlos, can I use your ring light?
Well, I have my ring light, but it's only.
We're back. Everybody unmuted.
Yes, sir.
This is a great conversation. I'm getting so many people in my chat, like just thanking you for this information, because you never get such great information in the unscripted space. So people are taking notes and they're very excited. I want to go back 1 minute just to understand talent, because we named a bunch of like famous people, but I also want people to understand that talent could be a group of people in Kentucky that own a fishing company that are fun. Like, what's the spectrum of talent?
You heard of Duck Dynasty?
Say-
I say, you ever heard of Duck Dynasty? That was what that, right? I think talent, I think you hit it on. It ranges from high IP. So these are people that we know, these are celebrities, and it just ranges to personalities, characters, people that you can see either in a format or in a docu, in any type of genre. But you have to have that fleshed out. I appreciate, and I do like watching tapes on people that are funny and interesting, but I need to know, like, what are you thinking about? What is this are they a talk show host? Do you think, is this a docu? Am I following their nail salon? Just sort of to identify what is it about their personality. If they're not a celebrity that's known for something specific, what is it about them that you're shaping the idea around?
Yeah, I would say unknown talent is probably my favorite part of what I do. Like meeting people who don't have any type of celebrity status, and somehow they've gone undetected all this time but they are obviously very interesting. They have like their story. You know how, people are just like, you should be on TV. Like there's so many people where, after just spending time with them, that's what the people around you think. Like, oh, that guy's a TV show. So those are, the people that I'm really developing shows with, like trying to see what the hook is, with them and the people around them to make it an attractive show for a network.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, I consider independent producers talent too. And it's because they're the ones coming up with the creatives and they have this vision of what things should look like. And so the talent in their part is they're actually providing the talent of the show, which is a weird concept of the way that we think about those things. But even like Dream Hampton, she's like one of my favorite clients. And she's so, like, when you talk to her ideas and the way that they're fleshed out, they take the vibe of the show. That's what you see on TV. It's like whatever is in her mind and whatever she's producing. So in a weird sort of way, I kind of think of independent producers as talent.
Well, I'm going to say thank you to that. I think I agree with Angela. There's nothing better than finding the next Chip and Joanna, like these people who are charismatic, and they're charismatic on a really bad Skype, but you still want to hear more. You want to hear what they think, how they would react, and there's just something about what they present together. There's magic, right? There's just something magical about it. And you think about, like, some of the people that, you also want to be first. I mean, you want to be first. You're like the first baker, I forget his name. Anyway, but the TLC show, but like just those guys, those people who were first, there was something charismatic about them. And then all these other people follow, right? Like, oh, we want to find it, and look at HGTV has done a phenomenal job cultivating the next. That was a huge loss when Chip and Joanna left, right? But now they've really done a great job cycling new people through that are great. So you just find people like diamonds in the rough. You kind of and I think people need to be authentic to their world. Yeah. I think it's very difficult to put somebody round square, in a whatever the phrase is, but like you need to keep you need them to be authentic. I remember once chasing this pickle lady that I thought was like, she was so funny. It was like a pickle business that itself was ridiculous. And like her world was ridiculous. And, at the end of the day, like there was an issue with, anyway, we had a challenge with her that we couldn't sort of make a deal, but I still, one of those things I still like always think about whatever happened to the pickle lady. Like she was just.
That's great. You bring up a good point, because I'm an independent producer and I go out pitching and I've made mistakes. So I'm going to bring those to this table. I had a piece of talent and they were good, but they didn't really have a world built around them. So I just picked people, It didn't go far because they're like, this is not a real world. You just put together a world and we can see, like, we talk about like how authenticity is more important than putting together people that don't normally come together?
Absolutely. I think, you know, maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, maybe as late as 10 years ago, you could get away with that. Here's my anchor, right? And I'll just cast some hotties around them or some loudmouths around them. That, yeah, some of that lived. Not anymore. That, you know, buyers and audiences can smell it.
Yep.
They can, they have been around the block now. These kids growing up with social media, they can smell it. It's, I think, and David has heard 100,000 pitches and probably has the best meter for that authenticity, but I think it's a complete, in my opinion, a complete waste of time to try to sew together a false world. The buyer will sniff it. If a miracle happens and they don't, the audience will sniff it out and change the channel. It's a no win. And I do think, Carlton, I think people starting out still believe somehow that that is an option, that that's a viable producerial strategy. And in my opinion, that's dead, waste of time. Don't even try it.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. I mean, you definitely can smell it. I would say on the buyer side, the volume is so high. We see so many pitches a day that like I can tell. I know a true actual family that's a real family, and then I know something that's sort of made up just because of your radar. And then absolutely the audience, they will buy it, they will drag you, you will be on Black Twitter, they will talk about you, and no one's gonna watch your show. So you don't want that. And then to Angela's point, like, yes, I think people, there's a phrase like you belong on TV, right? That there is like sort of that idea and that sort of understanding when you see talent. But then on the flip side of that, everybody don't belong on TV. Everybody is not a character. Like, let's be clear. There are reasons why, like there are hit shows for a reason. And so some people are great and some aren't. And that's also just like sort of knowing, right? Knowing your talent. But you definitely need to be authentic, and you have to be sort of open to adapting. If I come in with an idea and I think that I have a great docu, and my buyer is like, well, what about that yearbook committee? Is that a show? Like, right? You sort of have to be open to evolving, and that's sort of, I think, the beauty of Unscripted.
Yeah, our show on OWN, Love and Marriage Huntsville, that show does so well for our OWN, and the secret, I guess, if you will, to it is that cast was friends before they ever met me. Yeah. They already had a rapport. They were already working on, projects together. And then they just kind of, cameras just started following them. So.
Yeah, you can tell. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question. It's more about the pitch.
Add to that really quickly. Okay. I think that's the importance of having a really good agent too, because your agent can be very honest with you to say, this will work and this will not work before you even take it out.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I am very honest conversation, but
I vet everything through my agents, and believe me, they say no. They say no, don't even waste your time.
What are the elements of a pitch deck that people should have? This is a question from Andre Boyer. He says, what does a pitch deck look like when pitching an unscripted show? Is it a one sheet? Is it a sizzle reel?
It depends on the format, right? It depends on the format. It depends on the type of show that you're pitching. If you're pitching a format, if it's a game show, right, then you need to have a deck, right? And you sort of need to spell out what the games are. You need to spell out just the subject matter. If it's a docu, in a perfect world, I would say we want to see some tape. That's like the worst thing ever is you send me like, oh, we have these 5 cute girls and they all live it. And I'm like, okay, so my next question is going to be, would love to see them on tape, right? And then access, but I mean, I won't answer all the questions, but it depends on the format.
Yeah. Don't you think, Britt, aren't you sort of open to like shitty footage with like iPhone? Like if someone just puts it in a sense, right? You're fine with that. You don't need to spend a lot of money, professional cameras. Like
you don't.
Right, you don't, right? Like you will see through it very quickly if there's a there.
No,
that's a good point. I got a beautiful sizzle reel from a very, 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 very famous recording artist who wanted to have his own talk show, and he spent mid six figures making this tape. And the tape, the quality of the guests and the production was beautiful, and he was so terrible as a talk show host. And I was like, oh, babe, I am so sorry you spent this money.
Isn't that worse, Jeff? Like, your tape is beautiful, comma. However, your idea is so great.
You go back to singing, and this is not going to happen, babe. So yes, to David's point, especially when it's talent-based, you just need to see their energy and see that they're verbal and see that they're open and not hiding. I don't care if it's shot on a cell phone or a crappy Zoom. But you do need tape. I would never want to waste a buyer's time. I feel like buyers taking all these pitches, it sounds glamorous. It's got to be so monotonous. So when I go in, I want to have tape. I want to have deck. I want to have the answers. I want to get in and out and respect their time.
Thank you, Jeff. That's why I love you.
That's why I love you.
No, but you know, one thing that you've actually brought up a good point. I think that people don't think about, aside from please do not spend a whole lot of money. That's what development is for. Make me want more. Just give me a little bit of a taste so I can see what's there, and then make me pay you so we can develop it out. What some people do when they flush it out too much and they have these pretty tapes, you show me everything. I know exactly what this show is, and there's nothing else there, and I already know that this is not a show. So you sort of have to find
develop things.
I think that's a really good point, Britt. And Carlton, you mentioned one of the lessons you learned, and Britt just described a lesson that I learned, which was having that tape overly detailed. And what that does, it prevents the buyer from, making it their own, making it tailored to that network. If you come in like it is just perfectly dialed in, you have a greater risk of it not fitting into that network's vision of what they need. So sometimes just the broad talent tape and a broad idea, answer that question, why now? Why am I jumping in now? And give that buyer the opportunity to develop with you, give you some money to tailor it to the brand of their network or platform. I have been through overdeveloping and saying, yes, beautiful, but it's not right for us because it doesn't fit our vibe. Well, I narrowed that vibe too stringently.
That's great feedback.
I think another thing is I don't personally like new producers taking things directly to buyers themselves because you don't know how to make it sellable, right?
Yep.
So I think like another step in that process is like, yes, an agent assistant can help you with this, or just a regular assistant at Carlos King, a production company, or those things. It's like getting things in the hands of production companies, because production companies, this is what they do. They sell and produce products. So you want to like get with a really good production company who understands your concept. Like I was working with someone the other day and I was trying to explain to them why this is important. And it made me automatically think like, I should not work with them on this project because they do not understand the essence of this project.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend so much time explaining and trying to get them to get it, where I have other options that I can go to of people who, these are things that they're interested in and they get it already. And they're just looking for the perfect format in order to take out, to sell. So I think that I don't want to discourage anyone and say, no, never go to a buyer without a production company. But I think that going to production companies first with your good ideas and your scissor reels and your decks, or are more likely to get you in the room with an actual buyer rather than just sending them unsolicited material.
And we won't look at unsolicited. It's not. So scared.
Do not send anything to her after
We have a whole department at CAA for unsolicited. So I get it.
You guys, listen. Well, yeah, not more. Get an agent. Yeah.
I'm going to say one thing to the question that was asked. Like, it can be anything. It just needs to be completely thoughtful in explaining what the concept is. Like, it doesn't need to be 5 pages or 10 pages. It just needs to tell you what it is that they're excited about, what the world is, what the characters are, where they see the stories, like what the stories like could be or whatever, but just ultimately what the world is that excites them. Like, it just needs to be definitive and have a point of view. It can't just mean, like, it just needs to be concise. You're not going to want to read anything that's not concise and thoughtful. Angela's got 15 other meetings today. She doesn't want to have to work that hard. None of us want to work that. We're happy to do the work, but you got to come in somewhat fully baked to your ability, and then we're going to help re-engineer those ingredients to something else.
And David, we don't want a 22-page pitch deck either. We do not want to read. That's part of our job. If we wanted to read, we would be unscripted. That's always my joke.
True.
Or in crime, because
so a good 5-pager is.
I think it depends. I don't think that there's an actual answer to that. I think it depends on the form, on the concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say short and sweet is sometimes the best. It's small package. Just hit those bullets, hit those points, and then then I want you to come in. I want to know more, and then I may ask, like, okay, I would love to know more information about X, Y, and Z, and then you can send me a revised version of the pitch. But I would say short and sweet. It's too long. It gives me too many opportunities to poke holes and ask.
I have a question from J.W. Wilson. We have about 27 more minutes, so I'm doing like some Q&A. How much money can a newcomer expect to earn from selling their first show?
Not much.
Ashley. Not much. I mean, woo child.
People think it's like they're going to get rich off their first show. We need to let them know.
Oh.
Unless you have a Grey's Anatomy somewhere in your back pocket, not happening.
Because Shonda I'm sure it's already in development. I think it depends, but no, the answer to the question, this is not the business for immediate success. I mean, it depends on what you define as success. If you having a successful show for me is a form of success. Now I still have to go to work every day, but I'm not rich, but you're definitely, I think actually you could speak to sort of the deal making, and it just depends on, I think again, still on the format of the show, right?
I definitely think that depends on the format of the show. I think that if you want to get rich overnight, Shiny Floor is your best option, but who's going to produce a Shiny Floor project?
Well, tell them what Shiny Floor is. Some people may not know.
Yeah. Talk us through Shiny Floor.
I'm going to let a development executive talk about Shiny Floor.
All right, Angela, Jeff.
Go for it.
Shiny Floor is a big, expensive, usually broadcast network, usually a game, right? Like American Idol, big Masked Singer, The Voice. Those are big, huge, Shiny Floor shows. And Ashley is right. Those pay the most money because they're formats. And a format, when it's a hit, you can sell it around the world to every other country, and they have to pay you for the opportunity to create it in their country. So if you created American Idol, when Russia goes to do American Idol Russia, you don't have to lift a finger, and they got to pay you a ton of money every time they do a new season, multiplied by every country that wants their own version. So yeah, that's the big money truck. But to get to that money truck, a person off the street, even if they have a brilliant idea, to get to that finish line, it would be a 1 in 100 million chance. You might as well go to Vegas. In my 2 cents,
spend all your money at Vegas,
right? If you're thinking of a career doing this, then you pitch, you develop your reputation, you don't make a lot of money at first, you keep going. It's like anything, right? You got to build and go up that ladder and expand your experience, expand your list of credits, expand your contacts, and you keep going and grow. That's the people who I think we're speaking to.
Yeah.
If you have one great idea and you want to cash in and really you own a salon, my suggestion is don't waste a lot of your effort, because it's really a one-off game like that is just 1 in a zillion. But if it's a career, go through the steps, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. My mantra is the tortoise wins the race.
Yeah.
The tortoise wins the race. Keep your head down and your nose to the grindstone and keep working, and you will get there. The people who don't give up are the ones who get there.
I was just going to add to that. I always say it's a process business. You got to celebrate each victory in the process. More often than not, you're not going to get a show sold, but you may get something in development, and that may lead to the next exciting project.
Yep.
And then it's just a very it's a process business. You've got to enjoy process. We all see TV. We all sort of see the streamers and the successes that they have. That took so many steps to get to that. So you got to enjoy process and celebrate those victories. When you get development money, when they like it and want to go to pilot, when they orders, those are huge milestone moments.
Huge.
And by the way, those big shiny floor shows, Ashley can probably speak about this, or David, the development time is in years.
It's painful.
Years.
Yeah. Well, because it's also
the stakes are so high.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because it's
years of development to do a shiny floor stage.
And they
show.
usually have so many big names attached to them.
Oh, yeah. From even the directors, the producers, the talent, but also something to just keep in mind and just know that some of our most successful shows, broadcast shows that are on TV, are international formats.
Yeah.
A lot of these are like Married at First Sight. That's not a broadcast show, but that was an international format. So a lot of these shows that we watch and we see, you think it's someone came up with this brilliant idea for shoppers
in Europe for.
I was at MIP trying to buy Married at First Sight. I was shut out in 1 second because most of the international formats are almost pre-owned by one of, whether it's Banijay, Endemol, blah, 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 blah. So that's a very difficult game.
Which is important why you get your lock on your localized projects also, because you won't get paid if you don't have a lock on there. And somebody.
Yes, ma'am. That's a good example of that. Yep.
Definitely.
So,
But as far as deal structure is concerned, I always preach this to my clients, especially independent producers who are starting their careers off and they're trying to partner with other production companies, is that you're not most likely going to get what you think you're going to get going into this deal, but it's a game, it's a strategy game. And going back to my favorite saying, you cannot hate from outside of the club. You have to get in. And so when you get in,
I'm feeling that.
Let me
borrowing
at the club. We'll see you at the club.
Yeah, you really have to get in, and you have to establish these relationships in order to make the money that you think that you're going to make. And it's many ways that you can do that. You can have a formatted idea that you're thinking about producing, and you want to produce and direct. There are other ways to get you money and back end, which is a whole different conversation than the one we're having now. But it's ways that you can make money to sustain your income over time. But you might not get that all up front. This might take years for you to get back end, which is the money you would get if NBC bought your show and decided they were going to distribute it to Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, you can get money those type of ways. It's different ways to structure deals. I think one way is to have a very smart deal maker making deals for you in the forefront of things, when you are beginning, so that you can set precedent for yourself in the market of the type of deals that you're looking for. And as you progress in your career, you just continue to build off those deals in order to get you more money in more places. For example, production companies I always say production companies are king in unscripted, and they are. They're so important. And what happens with production companies is they usually get a fee of whatever the episodic budget is. So when you get that fee, there are ways that the production company can decide to split that fee with the producers they are working on. Your first deal, you might not get 50-50. That might not be.
Oh, no.
You're not getting 50-50.
Yeah.
Not if you want to partner with me.
I think that's very important, and especially with Angela, say if a producer is coming in, do they know? I don't think most people know that the production company is going to take that and
No, they don't know. Ashley's point is the form of success is the relationship. That's what it is. That's really what you want, and then after that, things will happen. But don't you want that relationship. That's the success.
Is anybody comfortable giving like a number? Like you're not gonna make 10,000 or you're not gonna make 200,000? Like,
Sure. I mean, to Ashley's point, there are multiple ways to do a deal, right? If you bring Serena Williams into my office and I meet her and I feel like, okay, she's ready to go, she wants to do this, then great, I'm going to do a deal with you because she's attached to you. You're a young producer and you got her. Good job. So there's ways to do this. We can upfront negotiate a per episode fee for you. That means when I sell this to Netflix, you're going to get $5,000 an episode, $10,000 an episode, maybe $20,000 an episode. You can take it that way.
First time producer.
What's that?
Except for a first time producer.
Yeah.
Maybe the 20,000.
Maybe 3,000 an episode, maybe 2,500. Thank you, Ashley, for speaking the truth. I'm trying not to be a dream crusher.
I've heard the free range too.
The other thing you can do, and you better have a agent and an attorney guiding you on this, you can all say, you know what? I'm going to negotiate my deal directly with the buyer. So Jeff, I'll sign with you. We're now partners. We got Serena, and I'll just take my cue. I'll do my deal with the buyer. Well, you can do better that way than negotiating with me. You can also do a lot worse. Also, sometimes the buyer goes, don't look at us. I know Jeff. I don't know you.
That's
Look at Jeff.
That's
Talk to
exactly.
Jeff.
Never advise a first-time producer to negotiate their line item themselves with the network.
No.
Networks are these huge, they are so mega and big that
I
these
don't
are not
want to
details
bother.
they're trying to hunt on. They have no idea who you are. They're only looking for you because you came with this production company.
Honestly, as a no, we're gonna say, but I don't care that you had the idea first and you sold it to Jeff and you feel like you're old. We're gonna say this is how much you're getting, and however you guys decide to divide that, that's on you. That's completely
And
up.
if you are walking in for the first time, no way am I going to give you a 50-50 deal. Here's why. That fee is a percentage of the overall budget, right? So I get that fee. I have to pay for this building. I have to pay for the lights, the electricity, the attorneys, the receptionist, the computers, all this stuff. It all comes out of the fee. So unless you are walking in with Serena and she's naked, we're never going to do a 50-50. I'm going to encourage you to do a finite amount of money per episode that I will pay you out of my fee, or a finite percentage of my fee. That's what we're talking about when we say 50-50. It's not going to be 50-50. It might be 10%. But if you're off the street, to Britt's point, now you're in a relationship with me. I encourage you to take that 10 and be happy. And the next time you bring me Kanye, great, I'm going to give you 25%, because we're in business now and we're cooking and we got a relationship and you're funneling me talent. Great. And then maybe someday we will get up to 50-50, but I would not expect that when you walk
We have
in.
about 15 minutes left. I want to get a few more questions in.
Oh, but I do want to add something to that is really important. One thing that you definitely need to fight for are credits. I think that in your career starting off, when you are looking to make more money, the credits that you get on projects are very important to that. So if even at the first time, you're only getting a producer credit, and maybe 2 shows after that, you're now getting EP level credit, that definitely changes the trajectory of how much money you'll make over time.
Okay. Angela, I wanted to talk. So if a creator is coming to you and they say, I have an idea and I want to be executive producer on this project. This goes with what Ashley was saying. What is that conversation that you have with the creator as far as credits?
Well, I mean, we usually just let them know that that's at the network discretion, which, as Brittany said, they're gonna like ping pong it.
I was like, I don't know you. I know Jeff. I know Angela.
Yeah, but and I can speak about this because it's public. But one of the couple cast members on our Love and Marriage Huntsville show, they actually brought us a different form of the show that's on Love and Marriage. It's not that concept exactly, but because they, you know, brought the characters and like the world, they wanted EP credit, but that's obviously not approved, so they settled for a producer credit. So, you know, but they're free, which they have done, to let people know, you know, that we, you know, kind of approach Carlos King and Kingdom Reign with this. So that's kind of like they get that clout from it,
Yeah.
if you will. So, but yeah, no EP credits for newcomers.
Yeah, that was one of the questions, because people will, you know, newcomers, and this was my young self too. It was like, no, I read that Micheaux Cole is like, if she ain't own it, if she doesn't own it, then she walks away from the deal. So I'm doing that too. I'm like, you don't have enough, you know, like.
Yeah.
But Carlton, where you are in your career now, everything that I do for you, what do I ask for?
For EP credit.
Correct.
Yes.
But you have earned that over time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's deserved. It's deserved.
Let's be honest, like EP credit is the top. That is the president. That's like the top. That's as far as it goes. So you can't expect to come in from the bottom outside the club to own in the club. That's just point, right? So
I just want to also add, like, and I think this also sort of, it's not punitive. Like when Jeff was saying, you know, the way that this sort of deal gets structured, we're all taking the liability. We take all the production liability. We take all of, you know, Britt's going to buy the show from us. She's expecting a show to be delivered. If there's overages, if there's problems, that's on the production company to manage. I mean, again, in partnership, but it's that is also why it's a little, it feels a little different, because the responsibility is so epic on
Yeah.
them.
I think that
takes the load.
Yeah, Dave, I think that's actually a really good point. And it's something that we sort of haven't talked about during this panel, but like we're currently in a pandemic, right? We're all at home. A lot of productions have stopped down. Productions have been canceled, or productions have been prolonged. And to be honest, like on the network side, we weren't prepared for this, just like everybody else wasn't prepared for this. So there are so many shows that have been sitting. And the production companies have to feel they take that loss, and they have to sort of figure it out. And so for, you know, in a time and in a world where this was not planned, this wasn't something that was in the deal. We didn't have a line in here that said, in the event of a pandemic, we're gonna pay. And this was something that we was all sort of figuring out. So when you're thinking about you know, these smaller producers, it's like this is why the production company takes the bulk, is because they are responsible for these types of things. And yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do like a speed round. We got 10 minutes left and lots of questions. So we'll do like one answer per question, and then we'll keep it moving. Sorry, my phone locked. As far as talent, like how important are influencers and social media, people that are famous online, and how important are they in the unscripted space right now, or are they?
I'm happy to answer a 30-second version. I've met 100 influencers. They're brilliant at short form content. That's different than carrying a half hour or an hour. My experience is that 98% of the time, their talent in the micro form does not succeed in a longer form. There's, of course, exceptions to the rule, but, you know, even back in the day, Cameron Dallas, biggest male influencer of his day, had a series on Netflix. I find it's very challenging to cross them over.
I'll piggyback off of Jeff and just say that it doesn't translate. The truth is, the people that are on Snapchat, they're watching these shows on TikTok. They don't have cable. Their parents may have cable, or maybe their older sister has cable because they have a job. But it doesn't. So it really doesn't translate. I don't care if you have 50 million views on TikTok, because those people are not coming to watch the show. It's helpful and it's nice. It's a nice statistic to add to your deck, but that's not the driving force. That's not going to get the show sold, just because that does nothing for me as far as a network, with my ability to have high ratings and to have new viewers come to the network.
Okay, Ernest Dukes, he has a concern about why is it so acceptable for first-time producers to get screwed? Is that just how it is?
acceptable. I think acceptable is harsh. I would say that's the business. There are certain things and certain just protocols and different ladders in the music industry. That's one thing. There's certain thing in film, and I think in unscripted and just an alternative, this is the game, and this is sort of how it is. And it's a learning curve. You're also not ready. Like, let's be real. You, as a small producer, you cannot come in and make a big show. You don't have the experience. You don't know. So you want to manifest those relationships, get your experience, and eventually you will be at the top. You just got to sort of get there.
I think another way to look at it, that you can look at that is like a doctor. As you're a resident, you're a doctor, but you're working under someone else's license. And that's kind of what this world is when you're a first-time producer. Like, you have your chances to make your mistakes and like figure out how to budget and how to shoot. Like, there's so many things that come with it. It's still a learning process for you. So you shouldn't come in and feel like you deserve the same thing as the chief surgeon is making. Because
Beautiful. Perfect analogy.
What are some of the current, this is a question, I don't have the name, but I'll ask the question. What are some of the, James, hi James. What are some of the current hot topics or show concepts in the unscripted world that networks are looking for?
Everything.
I mean,
COVID proof, I feel like that's about to be a genre.
Say it again.
COVID proof, I feel like is about to be a new genre.
Oh, that's the number one question. If you pitch me anything right now, it needs to be, how can you shoot this during COVID? Which is not a hard answer, by the way, because everything is still being done. But I think just stuff that isn't out there. It's such a cliche answer, and it's so broad. But whatever is not on television, tell me about a world that I don't know exists. Give me exclusive access to this community. I think on the east side, it's like, I want to know what's behind the velvet rope. Like, give me a look into someone's world that I'm not exposed to already on their Instagram, on their TikTok, right? Because there's so many platforms now. Give me exclusive access.
And I would say for us, it still goes back to talent, because we're still, selling ensemble cast shows with, different characters. Like, it's just, is it interesting? Is your talent interesting? It goes back to that.
Does having a sponsor make a pitch stronger? Like, if you have like an advertising sponsor or someone coming in, everyone's saying no.
Maybe back in the day, 10 years ago, not anymore.
Because the bigger outlets all have relationships in the ad space that are super important to them, that they have to manage, and a workaround or an integration through the show doesn't really help if it doesn't help their bigger business. Yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like it should, but unfortunately it's counterintuitive that it doesn't.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes. I want to go around the panel and just any piece of advice that we haven't discussed yet to the creators in this unscripted space that they can use to further their careers.
My one piece of advice is to work hard. It is not easy. That's it.
Yeah.
Work hard. It's not going to come easy. Everybody on camera right now has worked their tushy off for many, many years to get where they are. It's not easy. It is hard work. The Emmy red carpet is one afternoon a year, and there's 364 other days that are hard work.
Yeah. And I just want to second that, because I feel like unscripted is a genre where everybody thinks, oh, I can do it and it's easy, and it's not. Like, you have to work hard. There is a formula in some cases. Everyone isn't up for it because it's reality. Sometimes you're working around the clock, and like, if you can't come in expecting the world,
I would I would piggyback off of both those. Work hard, and also just being proactive, constantly thinking and being one step ahead. And that's as a producer, that's as a writer, that's as a network, that's as whatever type of creator you are. It's just always anticipating the next change and the next move, and stay ready is what I say. You just have to always stay on your feet.
I was just going to add, I agree with everything you're all saying. I was just going to say, be nice. It's a very small community. You are going to see these people over and over and over again. How you treated them the last time is how they're going to remember you the next time. So it's a great community. This is a fun group of very innovative thinking, sort of creative people who are excited to make content, are bold and decision-making and what they sort of, get behind. Just be nice. Because it's all going to come back around. You're going to see these people again and don't want to feel like, oh shoot, why did I do that?
So,
100%.
Great advice.
Very good advice. I think my advice would just be authentic. I don't really touch things that I don't feel like are authentic to the person who's presenting them to me.
Yeah.
Because how do you tell that story on screen and it's not authentic to you? And also, how do I sell it to someone with this thing that I'm trying to bring your vision to life and you don't really have a vision that you're actually connected to? So
Wow, yeah.
that is very important, to be very authentic in your thoughts and ideas.
I love it. Thank you guys so much that this is, I mean, what a great panel of information. I learned stuff and I thought I knew it all. No, I didn't think that. And thank you for the spectrum of advice and information. I just want to let everyone that is watching to subscribe to the Micheaux Film Festival Instagram. And let's see, this has been recorded on YouTube. So if you want to post it, share it with your friends. And yeah, thank you everyone for your.
Thank you, Carlton. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we have
Great
new
talking